Anyone who I've ever worked with on the basketball floor has probably seen my guest's name before, though they've probably never seen him. See, I use his content almost exclusively when teaching. So when I finally reached out to Evan Gualberto to thank him for the hard work he put into his content, I knew I wanted to invite him on to have a conversation with him. Our conversation revolves all around basketball. The impact that it had as a 15, 16-year-old kid when Evan came over to the USA from the Philippines, the various careers and what his goals are in terms of a career in basketball, and a starting five of players that wouldn't necessarily make everybody's top 10 list. Probably most importantly was after we finished recording, we talked for close to another hour, and I truly believe it was the start of a long friendship that the game of basketball brought together. So, without further ado, here is a conversation with Evan Gualberto. I'm now joined with someone whose content I've consumed for years now, but first time actually seeing the man kind of behind the content, Evan Gualberto. Evan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, and I say that I've never your content is what I love about it. First and foremost, is the fact that you've put clearly a lot of time and effort into not just the specifics of each player's individual tendencies or scoring moves, etc. But like within each video, there's clear like segments of you're showing the same move used in 4, 5, 6 different scenarios. What's I guess the first question I have, what's the time commitment to each kind of individual project?
I couldn't tell you. People have asked me that. I've been asked that a bunch. I have no way of telling because like there are times when it's kind of like something I can do at this point with my brain turned off, if you kind of know what I'm saying.
Yep.
I could be watching my girlfriend and I could be watching something, and if she'll let me have the laptop like, on my lap,
Yep.
I can be breaking it down and, or anything could be happening where I can be doing it and then I don't realize how much I get done. And then before I know it, I think, okay, I can make a video. Do I have enough materials? And if I don't, that's the only point where I start going out and looking for it. Otherwise, it's an accumulation of just something I do as a pastime, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the kind of the first impetus? What was the inertia moment that got you decided like, oh, I'm gonna put together clips of so and so doing whatever move or breakdown and put into video format?
So I've actually been doing this for a while back. Even when I played, I loved studying stuff and I loved like trying to figure out how a player did this or a player did that. But I think the first time I did it for public consumption was the 2013 finals. People were talking to me. So I went to university in Chicago. I have roots here in Virginia. I grew up in the Philippines. So I have a whole bunch of different groups of people that I talk to about basketball. And almost all of them were of the mindset of like, oh, LeBron and Dwayne Wade are not doing, they're choking these transition opportunities. And I said, I don't think so. I think it's Danny Green and his secret superpower of being the last man back in transition. When it's a 2-on-1 with LeBron and Wade, they're unstoppable most of the time. But Danny Green makes them make decisions and, is responsible for a lot of those opportunities being missed by Miami. And so, I sort of show it to the people I could show. And then I realized like I could cut this up and put this on YouTube. Next thing I know, I send out the link to the people. Next thing I know, other people are commenting on it and starting to take off a little bit. And I start to go, oh, okay, maybe people are interested in this. So I'll start doing it because of that. And, there weren't that many defense videos. And if there were, they were all poor quality or they were all steals and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't like what's out there right now, and I can fill that void.
Yeah.
I can meet that need.
Was there benchmarks like or like specific videos that you can remember where you thought to yourself like, wow, that's a lot of people that just watch this?
Ooh, phew. Not in per, oh, so I think the first one that really uh, it was pointed out to me that it was big was I put together Kawhi Leonard's defense,
Mm,
and I was just going about my business. I upload videos. I get a couple of I have I've had a loyal following for a little while, and
mhm.
they're very encouraging, and they'll request stuff, and I'll try to do that if I can, and so and so. But then my brother actually sent me a message from the Philippines.
Yeah.
He sent me a message saying like, "Hey, have you seen this? Um, have you Googled yourself lately?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I ever have."
Yeah.
And so he sends me a bunch of different forums, and it's the Spurs Reddit, and I didn't even know what Reddit was at the time,
Yeah.
and a bunch of different places where they were posting uh, the Kawhi Leonard video, and I was just like, wow. And then I hadn't ever paid attention to the numbers at that point,
Mm,
but it was like shooting, 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 shooting up.
yeah.
And then I think the biggest one was, it makes sense now, but Steph Curry, when that his first MVP season, it was I really enjoyed what he was doing. I'd been enjoying what he was doing since he came into the league,
Yeah.
but I guess there just wasn't a video of that, and it was a combination of him really, really blowing up and me having enough of an audience to spread that video
Yeah.
around. Yeah, so it's still my most viewed video.
Do you have like if you had to pick like a power rank of your top three or your favorite three breakdowns that you've done, what would they be?
So for players or
Yeah,
like
just like
categories?
or no, yeah, like the players.
Okay. So I mean, Steph and Kyrie, those are I think those are my top three of my top four, I think,
Yeah.
just off the top of my head. But I really enjoyed doing Manu and Nash.
Hmm.
Those are my personal favorites. So uh,
I think it was the Steve Nash video that I've initially interacted with because I was looking for like compilations of Steve Nash finishing off of both feet using both hands.
right.
So I'm looking and I can't again all the like the mixes that I was finding were music background like much more like cinematic,
Yeah.
which I can understand are entertaining. But from a teaching perspective, they didn't do me much good. And
Right.
then I found like your fantastic finisher and like what again talking about is it's broken down into there's four in a row of this same layup. There's
Right.
four in a row of this same layup. So that caused me to definitely go down the rabbit hole and start from date added like most or oldest to now
Right. Right.
newest.
Right.
And then another one that's I've shared around a ton is the Drew Holiday,
Oh
fantastic
yeah.
footwork and like again it's I enjoy your breakdown of players that aren't physical like obviously they're physical specimens,
Right.
but they're not necessarily physical specimens in the terms of just pure raw power output.
Absolutely.
There's some kind of technical or footwork or coordination thing that separates them rather than just the fact that they're fast twitch muscles fire faster than anybody else.
Right. 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 And that's one of the things, the James Harden videos that I do. It's not, I didn't really know how to phrase it at this. I know now
Mm.
that it's deceleration,
Yes.
and load steps and things like that. But at the time I was doing them, I didn't know exactly what it is he was doing. I could point it out in a video, but there was no term for it. And
Yeah.
so like I always enjoyed that aspect of his game long before I knew if there was ever a term for it.
Yeah. And I think before Luka got in the league, he got tested and it was basically the same thing of he was all the way close to James Harden's percentile in deceleration.
Absolutely.
And it's ways that like we may not think of that as like athleticism, but clearly it is. So you said you came over from the Philippines, and what age was that at?
I was about 15, 16.
What was the Had you come to like North America before that, or was that your first
I had
experience?
visited. So my mom, who was the one I came to live with, she had a sister, and we had visited once.
Mm.
But yeah, spent most of my hardly ever left the
Yeah, yeah.
Philippines before that.
And was basketball one of the things that allowed you to like assimilate, I guess, with North American culture?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was a culture shock with so many things, but basketball, I was actually new to basketball. I had started playing basketball around 14, 15
Mm,
when, I mean, if you know anything about the Philippines, it's basketball crazy.
absolutely.
But I guess I was counterculture in a way because I just didn't want to. Everybody else loved it, so I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll find other stuff. But I got into it, and I just never let go. Like I
Mm,
was so behind everybody, so I was either watching videotapes for the young people out there. We did have VHSs and stuff.
yeah.
Lots of VHS. You know, we had a couple of basketball channels in the Philippines, thankfully, that has basketball 24/7. Just I was studying, I was breaking down. Sometimes I was playing NBA Live, you know,
Mm,
and studying moves that way. But I just was so obsessed with it. Everyone was like, "How could you go from 0 to 1,000?"
yeah.
Like, I don't know. This is just the thing. I can't get enough.
And then then you go through, what did you study in university?
Psychology,
Okay. And
psychology.
now we talked just a little bit before kind of hopping on the actual interview that you have worked with other supplemental income, but worked in basketball for the last number of years. I
Right.
guess my question for you would be, in the next 5 or 10 years, like what would the goal for your life in basketball look like?
Just I genuinely don't really, well, I don't want to say I don't care, but
Mm,
as long as I have basketball, I
mm,
feel like I'm good with just about anything. So, you know, whether it's I've been lucky enough to work with skills coaches, player development coaches, youth basketball for the junior NBA,
mhm,
things like that. It doesn't really matter to me what it is, as long as I can keep giving back to the game, because I feel like the game has given me so much.
mm.
And so if I can keep giving back to it in some way or another, I'm happy with that.
Just continue to chase that ball bouncing, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I think the the playoffs obviously this year were rather strange. We're transitioning back to more technical, tactical talk here.
Sure.
Did you have a couple of kind of meta takeaways from the playoffs this past year?
I did. So one of the things I enjoyed the most was zone defenses seem to be more in vogue now,
Yep.
which is exciting. And hopefully that will mean, you know, the NBA kind of changes a little bit, because threes and layups are cool. I understand the math,
Yep.
but the homogenization of the league, the fact that every team or roughly every team is trying to look the same or take the
Yep.
same shots, it's not that appealing to me
Mm,
personally. You know,
yep.
I get it, but
Yep.
hopefully with zone defenses and, you know, the occasional press, that'll change the way things are going. And with the Lakers winning their championship by going big, that hopefully the idea that everybody wants to look the same, play the same, and out warrior the Warriors, you know, hopefully that changes.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing about a copycat league,
Right.
um, is you just said you outwarrior the Warriors, but you're not gonna find a better probably ball handler slash off ball combination of Steph and Clay. There's
Absolutely.
very few playmaking bigs like Draymond, and having five guys like, so you try to outwarrior, like you're playing their game, um, but you probably don't have the pieces that are as good, or you're not as capable. Which I know Daryl Morey gets a ton of like stick for kind of what he did to basketball, but like his record does speak for himself. He pushed the Warriors to 7 games, 3 times, and he just said like, "Hey, they're doing it twice or 2 or 3 times, I believe."
I can't.
Yeah,
It at this point, it's all blended together.
exactly. They gave him a challenge. We can say that.
Absolutely.
And like the fact of the matter is, only one team wins, but they did it from a style that was completely different,
Right.
than the Warriors. So I agree. I hope that with zone, I know like the Raptors implemented some pressing aspects at times that there are the teams will look to be different because they have to realize like whatever their personnel, they have to look at a game plan that's maybe not the meta game plan for the league versus the game plan that works for their roster construction the most.
Absolutely.
Do you have and I know as an analytical person in terms of the game myself, I have a hard time like having like a favorite team, but do you have any favorite teams, or are there just teams that you like to watch kind of in cycles?
Certainly players, and so I'm a big fan of passers in general, but passing bigs, love a passing big.
Yeah.
Bam and Jokic this season in particular, Jokic all the time, but Bam's emergence.
Yeah.
So those are the types of players that I enjoy watching, and I will find myself rooting for them, especially come the playoffs, where if they go home, I'll live. It's not a big deal to me. But the more I can see them play, the more varied the matchups I see them go up against. It makes it more fun for me to watch the game, seeing them problem solve versus just I don't even know.
No, I know that makes sense. We know what the Kawhi, LeBron, KD, they have all the tools to solve all the problems. They're kind of like Supermen in terms of the game, where a guy like Jokic definitely has the fact that he's a slower foot. His game isn't, outside of passing, maybe isn't the prettiest thing in the world to watch, but he's constantly finding ways to get things done.
Right.
Last thing, and this is just came off the top of my head, and it might put you on the spot just a little bit, but if you had to pick a starting 5 of guys that maybe arbitrarily wouldn't be outside of most people's top 15, and again, you can kind of put your list of whoever that is in your mind, but kind of tier 2 to tier 3 starting 5.
Who would you put? So in these situations, I always like to try and not necessarily, talent is great, obviously, but fit more than anything. Would you consider Clay a top 15 guy?
I would say he's tier 2 or tier 3.
Okay, so he would definitely go in there just because there's nothing he asks for, nothing he needs, but he can bring so many things to the table. If Bam is available, because I know Jokic is not, right? I'll throw Bam in there. Oof. Well, my ideal answer would have been Luka in this situation.
You cannot have Luka.
He's too good.
He's too good.
He's too good. In other years, Jimmy, but he's up there. He's always.
I think you can take Jimmy. I think he's gotten a ton of love.
Right.
But I think there's still a clear separation between him and he needs a great team around him to get to those limits.
Right. So I got Jimmy, I got Bam, I got Clay. I'm gonna go Kyle Lowry.
Okay. Yep.
If any Canadians are watching this, I love Kyle Lowry. You guys know it. I know it. So that in terms of fit and spacing, I would want a spacey big. I don't know. I would want to say Chris Middleton might be a little small. That team would be small, but I'm just gonna go with Chris Middleton actually.
Very good. I said the person that came into my mind in terms of that last spot was maybe a guy like Jaylen Brown.
Oof, man. Yeah.
So I think with us thinking of that last 5 though, the league's in a really good place.
Absolutely.
It is so deep. I know I've enjoyed watching NBA basketball much more these last like 2 or 3 years than at any other point of my life. And with that being said, Evan, like I said, I'm glad that we've finally been able to communicate face to face. I've very much appreciated the effort and the thoughtfulness that goes into your videos, and I look forward to having more content to be able to show my players. So I thank you for that.
Man. Thank you.
You have a great rest of the day, sir, and we'll talk again soon.